Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday night. It is the Golden Guys, our Pulp Infection edition. Let me bring in everybody here that's coming in. We're waiting on Knights to join us right now, but we're going to do a brief thing. We have the Guru here with us as well. Well, things happen. A year ago, I bought a collection of pulps and for a couple of $100 and made 10 times that. And not my first time dealing in pulps. I've been doing it for about 12 years now. And I get a phone call, and I'll tell you the story in a little bit. But first, let me introduce people here. First up, Guru, how are you, my friend?
Man, oh man, I'm good. I'm really excited to hear your story. You've been teasing us a little bit here
Yeah.
and there. Oh, look what I found. Oh, check
Yeah.
this out. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys later. Oh, guess what? I'm ready for the what. So let's
There you
have
go.
it, man. I'm excited to be here,
So,
man.
excellent. DS, how we doing?
I am great. I'll tell you, I had a short dabbling period into pulps where I was really heavily researching them. I bought a small collection of them. I bought them one at a time to build myself a little collection. And I came to the point where I decided I need to get off pulps if I want to stick with comics. This is why I went with Golden Age, because I couldn't do everything. And so I got rid of the pulps. And now you're teasing us with this stuff, and I feel like I'm on the edge of a relapse. That's how I feel.
Yeah,
So I
just
want
when you
to ball
thought you're out,
now.
they pull you back in. They pull you
Yep.
back in.
Shakes, man. You got the shakes. You're like, oh
I
man.
do.
I
More
still
pulps.
have most of the pulp collection from last year that I saved from my own PC. Again, nothing too crazy. It's just what I really like to collect. Obviously, the Jungles, obviously the Good Girl art are my favorite two collections. That's my shtick. So it's great having everybody here. So I was going to wait for Knights before I tell the story because he's one of those. But I got to start it. So a buddy of mine owns a shop, and I broadcast from there before. And a lot of times I'm in there, and he's got everything from first Ninja Turtles, first Ninja Turtle, the figures, every kind of Funko Pop, every kind of eclectic stuff. The largest collection of Nepalese or from Nepal and African masks that exist. And he does a lot of great stuff. And he's got everything. He's got comics there. And him and I worked last Christmas on a comic collection that really wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It's a lot of inventory for a big, huge 40,000 square foot store. So while we've been friends, we always go back there. That's my kids' toy store. That's where I buy all the Hess trucks and everything. Every Barbie, everything my kids get, that's what it comes from there. So what happens is I get a phone call. We talked about it about a month ago. He says, hey, this guy passed away. I'm interested in this thing. He's got a lot of TVs and stuff, a lot of cool books. And I said, okay. He goes, but he's got some pulp fiction books. He's got a small stack. And I'm like, okay. So I know what he means by that. He means those books that I bought a year ago. He goes, maybe you're interested. Maybe you want to come down. As soon as I went in there, I saw what he had, a small lot. And then I said, where else does he have these? And where else do these exist? And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, there's a closet downstairs. So I go open up the closet, and those are some of the pictures you saw. Everything in a humidity chamber style tote for all you pressers and cleaners, or a tote like this, alphabetized by volume. If you don't know pulps, it's always volume and issue. So while it might not be January through December, it's March through June the following year, and that's volume 3, and it's separate. And in there, he's very sci-fi oriented. So one thing I will tell you right now, there aren't a lot of Shadows, Spiceys, or Terror Tales. But there are a few of each, not crazy, but full runs and multiple full runs of other ones. Multiple full runs. And I've gotten through about 3 of the big titles. And I've got 3 titles left, including a full 3 or 4 times collection of the big one. The big 2 I've got left to do are ridiculous. It's probably the full Astounding and Wonders. So before I start showing everything that's got there, let me introduce Knights. How are you, buddy? Mike, how we doing?
Oh, pretty good. Just a lot of stuff. Work's been busy, and I'm gonna be moving soon. So
yeah, we're moving at the end of the season. Yeah.
Yep. So it's kind of crazy. Usually it feels like I'm in a little tiny shop, but it's even worse now. Yeah, we can see.
Yeah, we love it. And by the way, I have him on the lookout for everything from Japan or anything that's eclectic. He has tons of cool stuff, and he's watching tonight. He's going to try to catch the show. If not, he watches the rewind. So just a little brief announcement here about it. Nothing is for sale tonight. I've gotten a lot of PMs. I'm not selling anything tonight. Right now, I'm working on creating certificates for this issue. That was a beautiful idea. Thank you, DS and Guru, for that. And because this truly is a once in a lifetime find. So without, I want to introduce the chat, but does anybody else have anything they want to show? Anybody pick up anything? No, we're just going to go right to Paul. Okay. So
I got one thing.
Please show it. For Mike, I do let Knights show stuff. He always complains to me I never acknowledge when you bring robots up out of nowhere.
This DS helped me get this thing. We were trying to determine if it was authentic or not. It looks pretty good to me, but I'm not sure. I might end up buying one of those repros, but they're kind of expensive as it is. To
put you on the big screen. Drag it out. I got to make a drink. Sure.
But this is pretty landmark first appearance of, and it's funny, you don't even see the guy on here, but the big like comic anime moments in Japan's kind of history going way back are like Astro Boy. That was in 53. And then in 56, there was a robot called Tetsujin 28, who I think is called Gigantor here. And he's had a number of like versions, but he's like kind of a beloved robot. He's one of the first giant robots, and certainly huge impact in Japan. They made anime, a TV show off of it, tons of manga, toys, all that. But before the anime and whatever, there was just one short story, and that's what I got. So this thing. And it's from 1956.
Yeah, very cool.
For a Japanese book. Yeah, and I hope, if I compare, and it's legit, then it's real nice shape. And they call this the Phantom in Japan because barely anyone has seen it. It's like just one of those collectibles that you don't ever see because it's just old. They still don't really keep manga, and this was one of those ones that was packed in with a regular magazine, and they threw all this stuff away. It's kind of like, it's very similar to the pulps in that respect.
Right.
Yeah, and when you showed me some pictures and we were comparing to see if we thought that was an original or one of the reprints, it's tough to tell because they're old and you can see some color differences, but there's no obvious markings that are different. They're exactly the same on the cover, and of course, whatever the indicia is probably all in Japanese. We can't read it; it's in Japanese, so it's really tough to tell. But I think, based on the pictures we looked at, it seemed to be closer than the reprint.
It's definitely like they did a great job weathering it. If they did,
Yeah, I mean, it's got foxing. That's only
Yeah.
comes from age. Foxing is only from age.
and it smells, pretty. I compared it to some other early 50s ones and gave it the smell test, and it seemed very similar. But it's great colors for that.
Can you show us Gigantor? Is he in there?
He's not. No, that's the weird thing is like he fights like different versions of. There's like 26. Like, see, that's 27 right there. So the like real guy that we all know, well, some of us know, comes in like a couple issues later, which I will have. But his latest, the one that people might know the most, is this toy here.
Oh right, yeah, that's Gigantor.
Tatsujin. And then the older version, he's like kind of fatter.
Yeah, he's like more bulbous. He looks like a big onion.
Yeah, he's I got this right here. These are some other old ones.
Yeah, he's big and roly-poly.
And in Japan, this is a cool one. He's fighting this giant mech Tyrannosaurus. But in Japan, they have a massive statue of him that's like, I don't know, like, they show people next to it and you come up to like his foot. So It's pretty cool.
So I'm going to show some of the collection. What I'm going to do is that first I'm going to show something that reflects a lot of us. So first of it is, I collect Jungle Girls and Good Girl art, but especially elephant covers. And I got a startling from November of 1939. Might as well show the elephant cover off the bat.
You want to make it so big?
Yeah, I always do. So this is a starling here, and I'm going to just share the condition of it. Completely intact. Spine.
Great.
Spine is incredible. White pages. And this is actually a cool arc story. This is the space arc. And I actually read, not this one, but there is two other copies of this, and one is a G plus. So I had some time to kill while I was eating a chicken salad on a croissant, and that's what was there. But let's just start showing some other stuff here.
Yeah, I love those retro looking spaceships from like the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, you're gonna love some of this. It's weird.
Did I miss? Were you told? Did you tell like how this guy got all this stuff? And
well, he acquired it. The gentleman acquired it. He passed. He acquired it over the course of a life of pretty much since the Vietnam era, from what I can track, what he wrote down from the Vietnam era when he got back from the service, all the way up until 2013-14, he was still buying. Wow. And even our good buddy Anthony was in one of his cards was in one of the items. Yeah. So I was laughing. I'm like, look, I found an Anthony Snyder card. I have a picture of it. I sent it to him. Just go Anthony's comic art. Anthony Snyder, good guy. So I really cool that he was involved, and I love that. And one of my favorite things about it was I got a binder that's overlapped and like dripping with post-it notes and everything all over it, and with notes and an inventory sheet and his own personal letters and his own personal dialogues with various people, and his please send me a list of all your weird tales that you have for sale and the prices from 2002, and it'd make you go crazy what they were. And stuff that was from the 97, 95. When the internet first started, he was probably buying on eBay as early as 2000, some of this stuff. And I didn't start buying on eBay until, I knew of eBay, but I was buying more like guitar things and things for my own personal life at the time. I didn't buy comics on eBay because at that time it was easier for me to go to the shops and get comics because I was buying collections at the time. So part of the collection there, the first one up, I'm going to salute my good buddy Knights, who is our timely Marvel / World War II era guy. And I'm going to show 3 Marvel and Marvel style books here. This is really cool. This is an incredible shape. Marvel February. And I didn't write down the year, but I know I've got it covered. I know I've already seen this. Actually, I've owned a few copies of this in my Pulp collection.
Very nice.
This is, and again, I'm going to show the spine. completely
real
intact,
nice.
and the back is white. And the pages, there's no fraying. None of these are trimmed. This is absolutely gorgeous. Another very famous one is this cover.
Yeah.
Very clean.
That's the first one.
First one. But he didn't have one. He had two.
Oh,
Nice.
Very clean, full spines, intact.
wow, nice spines.
So I wanted to show that, but our good buddy Knights told me he has them both. But you're in my heart, and I start going through a few other things. So I'm going to put those away. And now let's go over DS because you saw the elephants already. First, I'm going to show up the robot cover. This is so cool. It's again, don't worry about my grades. I put grades on it, and I'm a pretty conservative grader for those of you who don't know. I never grade anything near mint plus. I don't believe in that. I believe in near mint is the highest I could give anything my personal life. This is a little good. The reason why I gave it a fine is just because there's a little mark there, and that's it in the entire book. I give it a fine plus, very fine minus is probably much higher. But I love this cover. It kind of reminds me of Schoenberg's. By the way, in the yellow cover I showed you, that's a Schoenberg cover with Kirby interior art on 2 pages. In a pulp, 2 pages is a decent amount.
What year is this one?
This one is from April of. It's very early. I gotta check down the year. Maybe Lewis, he's watching. He can type in what year is this one from. Again, it's the 30s or early. It's pre-war. Most everything I'm going to show you tonight is pre-war. There might be 1 or 2 post-war, or during war, I should say. But really cool. This one stopped me in my tracks. There's actually a couple of copies of this. This is the nicest of the bunch, and he had a lot of postcards with this on it. He was very much into the sci-fi. And I want to show another one here. This is great. I just love this cover, and I've got about 5 or 6 of these that came in the collection. This is just a really cool one here. DS, you said you used to own one of these?
I used to have one of those.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a couple robot covers, and I had that one. I think that one is from the mid 40s or early 50s. I can't remember.
Yeah, this is a science fiction, but the story on the inside, he collected writers, so he wasn't so much in the art, but he was an artist himself, very much into graphic art. He has a lot of polka dot stuff, and Lewis, if you're watching, is going to laugh because half of the stuff in the place is polka dot. But this is very, very cool. I love this. And
what do you mean polka dot?
Like different colors. He had color. He was very eclectic. He had various beliefs in color coordination. He was he was schizophrenic, but he was a good man.
Are you saying he was a fine artist or
graphic artist? He started to do, but his occupation was a physicist and very Isaac Asimov. I mean, he was very. I read some of his. I sat back and being the way I am, I like reading mathematician stuff and everything else, being a former math elite, if you would. I just started doing stuff. But anyway, the Startling Stories. I just finished this tonight, Startling Stories, and this is the first issue. I kind of put a backing board on it. It looks great in the back. This is VF easily. But I just love the spine on this one. This is the first Startling Stories, and this is a great robot cover.
Love that one.
This is so nice. Such a good one. Nobody's seen this one yet because I literally just got it. I just brought it. By the way, the place, the guy who owns the shop is literally across the street to the right, less than 100 steps away, and that's why I work with him and everything.
So you guys found it together, or they came to him?
He found the house. He found the apartment and the storage units and everything else like that, or he didn't know what was in it, but he said this guy's got a lot of pulp books, which he meant the hardcovers, like a lot of books like about pulps like this. Which made me say, what else does he have? And that's when we found
was it like his kids selling, or just like
there's no children.
And it was just like abandoned stuff?
He passed away. He died on Christmas, and the estate had to be sold, and the apartment was valued at X, and So that's what they're. But the coolest one of the robots for DS is this for me. Now I do have one from 1892, but it's technically a robot. This is before there were robots. It's very hard for anybody to find anything, and if anybody has seen this before, please comment in the chat. This is from 1916. Okay, Illustrated World. It's about a story how the mechanized tanks in the middle of World War I were going to eventually lead to mechanized soldiers. Now, I read the story because the story is available online. I read the story. It was pretty cool, about 35-minute read. But the cover really doesn't tell you everything, because it doesn't mean that he meant that they would be mechanized soldiers. This predates the word robot.
Yeah, that one's fantastic. I absolutely love it.
There's only one person who this belongs to.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
amazing.
great.
So
I think the word robot was 1920.
right.
Was when it was invented. The word robot.
And everybody asks, is he smoking? No, it's not that whole. Don't pull a Mr. Potato Head on me. He's not smoking. It's a cannon out of his mouth, but he does look like he's smoking. It's pretty badass. It's so cool. I've never seen it before. I saw pictures of it and I read the article, but now, and it's in really good shape for over 100 years old. And one of my favorite things is the Waterman fountain pen ad in the back has Santa Claus on it.
Oh yeah, nice.
That's just cool. It was 15 cents, and the artist is Chester A. Lawrence. And I don't know if this actually is not listed in any pulp magazine, probably because there's no fiction in it. It's just an illustrated world of what was going on in the world at that time, and it was World War One. So, and now I'm going to put those on the side, and let's so the first title I got through before was. Technically, I've completed, or I went through each one, was Amazing Tales. Amazing Stories. And there are a few that I'm going to share with you right now, just some brief keys that I hope everybody enjoys seeing. First one is actually I don't know if it's uncommon or rare, and in pulp it's very specific what it is. I actually don't see many of these ever. This is the annual. There's only one annual. Here it is.
Oh,
and
Wow.
it is. Here's the spine, so I can show everybody here. Volume 1, number 1. There it is. There's the annual, and it is
Amazing.
very clean.
That was one that when I was into pulps there for that year or whatever, that was on my list. I saw one beat up one that I didn't want to pay for. And that was on my want list during the short period of time I was into pulps, was that one.
Mm-hmm.
And you see them occasionally, but they're always so beat. But I always thought that one was so cool. That was one of the few that was on my want list, along with like First Buck Rogers and more standard stuff.
Right. This I had when I opened up the Amazing Stories, I started at the beginning, and number 1, number 2, started going through them. But I was looking for the annual because I've only held the annual at I forget where it was 2005. I actually had a guy who had a beat up copy, like DS said, but I actually have 3 other copies of this without the cover, so I got to check what was inside. The artwork inside is so much nice. It's so ridiculous. It's the best of the first year. It really is the best of the first year. This is such a cool book. Also, don't sleep on the quarterlies. They're really cool. And I'm going to do something with the quarterlies. Like I said, this will be part of a special collection here. But you brought up Buck Rogers. I have 4 of number 2s, but these 2 I just wanted to share with you. So if you don't know, this is the second appearance of Buck Rogers. Okay. And now they don't make the other thing is DS. I agree with you about Mylar. There's a guy who has Mylar pulp. I'm like, are you absolutely insane?
I don't even Mylar Silver Age book.
Right. But anyway, we're laughing about that. But these are very clean copies of the second appearance, and really cool. And then there's some amazing stories to start off. Yeah, and you brought up the big bad boy Buck in his first appearance, so I'm going to show that early, so I can This is one. This is the lower of the two. It's completely intact with all the spine right there.
Dude, that looks good, man.
It is good. I mean, if somebody would, I mean, honestly, the first thing I thought about was, man, I would love to take a little bit of some, you know, little dry cleaning action to this thing, but there is one little tear. It's not even, it's just right at the edge. If you can see it, it's barely noticeable. I pulled out the magnifying glass on a lot of these because once I saw this, I said, okay, here we go. And this again, I started at the A and then I had to skip around because I wanted to skip because then I had to go to W right off the bat because I'm on the hunt for one particular book and unfortunately it wasn't here.
Oh,
Yeah. But with the A's, when I didn't see all stories, I'm thinking, well, I don't know if he's big more into the sci-fi than he is into the first appearances. So it was just
I'm pretty sure you could trade this for one of those.
I know I can. And that may or may not happen if somebody eventually we'll get through this. I'm probably going to do that probably. But that was good. I put this is still in the bag, and I put this in a top loader just to try to show you the condition of this one without trying to manipulate it in any way. This
can you show both of them at the same time as well?
Yes.
Because you don't ever see that. Oh my God.
Yeah, there's your thumbnail. That's awesome.
That's amazing.
I'll tell you, Reds are the first to go. I think I actually learned that from our chat a few months ago.
Yes.
But, the reds on that, man, that looks good, and the yellows are clean and bright. I mean, those are really, really well preserved.
It's actually white. It's white throughout, including the back. And even the pulp pages, it's never been opened.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's barely, I don't think it's, this is the one where I've said, well, I'm not going to open this one to check to see if the pages are any good. I know it's complete, and this is a beauty right here. I mean, I know Heritage, Rick, I know you guys have your auction coming up, and I know many of you guys are watching probably, and I appreciate everything you guys have been doing to help me out with this one. Good luck, and we'll have some fun with this over the course of the next 6 to 8 months because I've got a lot to go through.
Have you thought of reaching out to CGC and being like, hey, if you guys do this, we will submit X amount?
I'm willing to pay for the production of the slab right now.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm just curious. Like, I wonder if they would.
I'm willing to work with a designer right now and tell them how to design a slab for this. And then, this is not, I actually compared this to a Warren magazine. It's not that far off. But the difference between a pulp and a comic or a Warren magazine or anything else like that, it's really the cover. Complete means complete, and then it's the cover, because the more, and I'm just going to say this, the more you open them up, the more likely you are to hurt it. Less touch is better. We know that from doing Golden Age, Silver Age, but especially us in the Golden Age. I don't want people's thumbs going through these. And it's just my opinion on it is some of them can be touched, some of them should not be touched. So those are those. Before I show the next title, I'm going to show some more. Let's get a little weird. I love Lovecraft. Okay, so we're gonna show a little bit of Lovecraft time, and then I'm going to shut out the chat in a little bit. This book here. Okay, this is a well-known Weird Tales. Anybody ever see it before?
I haven't.
I haven't seen that one.
It's quite popular. It's a Lovecraft story, so it's there. But the thing about this copy is, often at times you see dusting on the front. Now, while the side is a little bleached because these were stored obviously like this, but that means that this never saw the light of day, and neither did that.
Is that the most famous? Gray Man was asking about a Lovecraft one that had something on the cover, some kind of one of his monster names. I can't remember the
Cthulhu.
It wasn't that. I don't think. Maybe something with an H. I don't know. But
this is a voodoo doll with the witch's hands doing the voodoo. It's very creepy, very cool. I just like showing that one off. But for my good buddy DS, I got to show one from December of 1926.
Oh, wow.
damn.
This is tough to find. And this one, what I put in here, I want you to see. I put a backing board on. Anytime you see painter's tape, you know that's my signature, because I hate tape. This one, I'm safe to say, very fine, near mint, but it's just a great. It's such a cool book to find one. And I've seen these at a few cons, and I tried to buy one from, I forget who the dealer was, in Oklahoma at Pulp Fest in Oklahoma, and he wouldn't come down. So now if he's watching, because I put this on a few Facebook pages, which is there, I don't need you to sell it to me anymore. So yeah, I love revenge is a dish best served pulp.
Is that a neener on it? Neener?
Yeah, a little neener. This, okay, we know. Oh, by the way, I guess I should have shown I had two copies of this one. One with writing on it, and I got to put them back soon.
What about pedigree? Do you think that? Well, I guess not, because
not an original owner, but it is. I'm going to call this a collection. And I'm going to put certificates in it. So in case CGC does do it, this is part of a collection. You're helping me document it right now. We're going through a few books right now. Here are two copies. And this is how it was. They're both perfect, intact. Again, the pages on the back are white. This is really good. So another one here, a great storyline or whatever. If you go... Again, August of 26. This is a classic cover if you've never seen it.
Oh, yeah, nice.
This is in really good shape. The back has a little... This is actually not on the book. It's in the paper. You see it? I just made it go down so you can see the back of it. Again, absolutely pristine condition. Beautiful, beautiful story. I like doing the weird tales. That's one of my favorite titles that I actually have collected in the past. Kind of a suspense 3 thing going on this one. This is pretty well known in the pulp world. Again, the whites are whites, the reds are red, and that's what's important when you're collecting books. Again, this is, I believe, this is January of 34. I've seen this book a few times.
Is she
really good
bound too? She's bound. Her hands and feet are bound.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's a lot of bondage. The Sea Witch. This is the blue cover, and there's two of these. I only found the one. Like you'll see why in a little bit which ones were skipped over, but or were sold by him. But a really cool one. I actually like that this actually has something on the side, so it means it was red. Made me feel a little better. But it's a nude. It's fun. Here's a cool one. This is again, it's an H.P. Lovecraft storyline. This is from July of 33. And this is a classic right here. Weird Tale fans know exactly the storyline that this follows. So there. But I love the fact that the back of it has a book that I found the actual hardcover book with it. So you know you're eclectic when you actually have the free book that came with this. White pages and a little column right here. It says, Lovecraft wrote 2 stories in this. Robert E. Howard did some stuff. C.A. Smith and Williamson. This is my favorite issue. July of 33.
Yeah, that's
and I'll get into more Lovecraft and later stuff at the top of the hour.
What year did Weird Tales start?
I think it's 1922.
22, yeah. Here's another one, Satan's Pump. This is pretty well known if you know the storyline of the devil. We'll get into some devils in a little bit, maybe a doctor or two. But this is cool. At the bottom it says the #1 magazine of strange and unusual. So they started getting a reputation. This was 1937, and the back, by the way, is the same book 3 years later. This guy couldn't sell the book. I just thought it was great. Felt bad for him. That's why I showed that one. This got my heart racing when I glanced over it because it looked right. And first glance, I thought it was it, but it's not. But this is really cool too.
Oh, that's a great one.
Man.
This
So
is
close.
a classic right here.
Carter
Beautiful.
Mars.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. February of 33, Buccaneers of Venus, and I'm going to show you the spine. Look, first of all, look at I thought it was a reprint.
That's his third appearance then, right?
Yep.
February?
If this guy's watching from heaven, well
It's
done.
in good hands.
Well
It's
done, my friend.
and
You had
it's
a
in good
collection.
hands. You have it in good hands here. I mean, this is exactly
that's
like I said it was going to be.
The condition of these is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, usually, often you can find good covers on pulps where the cover's intact and it's decent. And then when you look at the spine, it's just all chewed up and poor. And you can even, some of it's missing at the bottom or the top, and it's faded. And that's where the problems are mostly on the pulps. And
That's
these,
the kind I can afford.
ones like this, pulp after pulp after pulp that you're showing, I never see that.
I'm going to show the two marbles. These are the other two of the Schoenberg cover. Unfortunately, I can't find the Schoenberg first cover, which was a Starling Stories. I can't find it. I'm looking for it. I went through a lot of Starling Stories. I couldn't find it. But this is also Schoenberg cover. And again, this is a very early Jack Kirby book, but the interior, it's just really cool. There are 3 copies of this one in there. Because what he did is if he bought the low grade, he's DS without the selling of the other one, Again, both
Good.
the condition is very good on these. I mean, very good is a joke. I haven't found one that. Funny thing is, I bought labels for good, very good, fine, very fine. I ran out of fine and very fine real fast because I never really find that many pulps. But I'm going to show you some more freaky good ones, but in a little bit.
Did you go
before
through all the totes already?
No.
Or are there still
No.
So you might still find like a key
Yeah.
tote.
Well,
or something
I
crazy
will
like that?
tell you, because he kept it in alphabetical order, what I still have left is this title, Astounding.
Mhm.
I have probably a full run of Astounding from the 30s, and I'm showing this one because this was randomly inserted in one of the other ones. But this is actually, it's February of 40, but it's if you don't know who Robert Heinlein is,
Headline,
yeah, he wrote the Puppet Masters. If anybody wants to read a freaky book, it's one of my top 10 lists for sure. And so I grabbed this out here, but this is the futuristic tank, if you will. I just grabbed this one out because I just started Astounding, and this was in a random pile. But when I looked at it in a random pile, usually at your antique shops or your secondhand shops, they don't have. I just don't see them in this condition. So I pulled that one out to the side, and I pulled out this Uncanny, again, another copy of the Uncanny.
Yeah, that's nice.
This is a nice copy here. It's a little more common than the robot one I showed earlier, but again, I want to show you.
That's an early timely.
It's a very early timely, and you've got a lot of our famous guys in there. And this has something by Ray Cummings, which is one of my favorite novelists as well. It's funny because a lot of what he likes, I do, which makes me afraid that maybe I'm going down that path. But anyway, my favorite cover of Weird Tales, not named First Appearance of Conan. And if anybody doesn't know, the story behind it is I do not have one. It's just, I call it the freakiest cover ever. It's called The Foot Fetish. There is so much, every time you look at this, you'll find something else new. And I can't explain to you much more about it other than this, like when I told Lewis this specific fact, this is my key. This is the one I've been waiting for forever. There's so much. Again, you've got the gunshot, you've got the creepy dude, you got the eerie hand. Look at his hand. You got the choking scene. You've got this guy going down there. You got a bondage girl. You got her just laying there, and then above the bed, it's all right there. Again, this is one of my favorite issues. It's June of 1926, and when Lewis and I were talking about pulps about a couple of months ago, how much he liked Creeping Death, I said, "Yep, I understand that Shadow was very good, and I understand that everybody likes the Black Bat. We'll get to that. The Batwoman. We'll get to that. But there's one called the Foot Fetish. If you don't know, even has the eerie smoke coming up out of nowhere into this. And the artwork on this is my favorite cover, period. I just love this one. It's my favorite one of the bunch. It's just my favorite, of all the pulps I collect, that's one of my ones I've always looked for. This is a really well-known cover. But look at the orange still being orange. Now, as a fiction house buyer or as a buyer of any Golden Age comics, orange goes first. Red and orange. But orange especially because it's already started to fade, so you don't have that much longer to go. This is from 34, and it is pristine. But the one thing that freaked me out about this one, if you look at the blue with the yellow, that could be printed yesterday.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Taking a little right now. I'm going to take a break in a minute. We're going to talk to everybody in a minute before I go to the next one.
How many pulps in total do you think?
In total?
Just ballpark.
Have I looked at already? I've looked at over 1,000 so far. I've looked at well over 1,000.
So maybe 2,000.
Yeah, 2,500.
Wow.
I mean, I've got a lot of titles that aren't well known, like Railroad.
What's to say there's not an Action 1 in one of those totes or something, right?
Well, funny story. You should say that. That's a story I'm going to get into in a little bit. Actually, all right, we'll take a break of showing. So what happened was
next week
in there was literally in the binder of the picture was an Action 1. But it wasn't, it was the reprint, and I didn't know that.
Oh.
So I kept quiet about it, and then all of a sudden I pull out the bag. It's one of the ones from the 80s still in the poly bag. But it's still a good book. But it made me literally, I pulled up, I saw the car, I saw the guy's face, and I'm like, shit, here we go. I'm like, oh. And as soon as I saw the action, I'm like, oh. There's no outline on Action 1. You did a good job, but DC, you could have done better on that one. But this one, Guru, you've seen this one, obviously, right?
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, this is a popular one all of a sudden again. It's called The Black God's Kiss. It's a C.L. Moore story, which I actually have a C.L. Moore book. It's weird that I find this thing. It makes sense, though.
How could this guy not like comics?
He did. He liked weird science. He liked weird fantasy, which I got to talk to DS afterwards about that. But I'm putting a few back just so I don't knock anything over there.
You got a bunch of ECs in there too?
Not a bunch. Well, there's... Yeah, but there again, after finding the pulps, when I was like, meh. Meh. I looked for the Frazetta one and I was like, I already have it anyway, so what am I going to do? Meh. That's exactly what it was. Like, it's only worth $200. But
maybe the famous.
This was one of my favorite finds. Again, things that stop me in the tracks of the pulps I looked for, or I've lost out on, or I've been outbid on at the last second on Comic Link or at Heritage. I've been outbid on. This was one. This is two, but it's the same book. So I'm just rubbing that in that guy in Oklahoma.
This guy was in your hometown?
No, well, my hometown's the Bronx. Yeah, my hometown. I'm from New York. This guy was here. Okay. It was literally a 13-mile drive away. Not even 13 miles.
Wow.
And plus, I got to stop by a Pew Pew store on the way back and pick
You
up.
never know what's around
I'll
you.
show it again.
Oh God, don't do it. Oh,
Yeah,
I just want to clean up a little bit.
mind getting one of those, but I really
works.
want to famous 23 first because I don't even want to have the first comic book appearance, and I'm a comic collector.
Right.
3 at some point I'd like one of those. I really do like Buck Rogers as far as like old sci-fi stuff. But man, those are really gems for.
So-
Are you going to show the 2 all-story Tarzan first appearances?
Oh, no, that's what I looked. Trust me. When I went through the pulps, I was in alphabetical order. I saw amazing. I'm like, AL. I saw AI. By the way, there's some there. Now I want to show the historical stuff. There's one thing I want to take a break on here is something he collected was popular mechanics and science and invention. Okay. Now there's something very specific about science and invention. I'm going to explain to you guys in a minute here. Make sure nothing fell and nothing did. And yes, I will be making a certificate. I think I have to figure out a way to get the logo on there. Funny thing is the Imaginarium's logo is a robot. So it makes sense. And we're going to call it the Imaginarium Collection.
He was a graphic designer, man. This logo better be next level, dude. Out of respect.
Yeah.
It'll
Did
be
he
good.
collect any
Polka
original
dots. Something polka dots.
Yeah, I did find some original Norman Rockwell art, actually.
Whoa.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I have that being
That'd be
looked
worth
at.
it.
I need somebody to authenticate it, but it might not be. It could be him. Again, he was an artist, so either he copied it,
Yeah.
but it's from 1947, which I think he's too young for, but it's from a magazine of an art school. He obviously attended art school in the 60s. He was in the service. He was 74 years old when he passed. But I'm going to put a few of these things
So he
away.
went to art school and then right to Vietnam?
Well, I don't know if it was art school he attended because he's a mathematician and he's got
Oh, yeah.
a lot of
Art and math usually don't mix.
You're a billion
Yeah,
times
pretty good.
correct, but I don't agree with that because I can draw and I'm a nerd. I mean, I'm
Pretty good at math, and
a savant and that shit, and I don't like being. It's one of my least
I
favorite
could
things.
see an artist thinking they're good at math or a mathematician.
Everything was colors with him and dynamics, so everything was geometry. Geometry. I'll tell you right now, John Buscema said his math skills is what made him a good artist because he drew circles, triangles, and rectangles only.
Mm.
So let me show you a few more stuff in a little bit. Let me put some stuff away, especially the ones that make me nervous. But so on the pulp world, you guys tell me what are some of the things that you always look out for in the pulp world, other than this stuff?
Well,
Look out for.
yeah, I mean, there's different categories in pulps that are sort of golden age, dark golden age-ish. I'm into what I call dark golden age, which is still a term that hasn't really caught on, but I still use it. So the dark GA stuff, there's 2 categories in pulps that I was looking out for that are related to that. And one in the pulp world is called the Weird Menace. And the Weird Menace are like the horror sort of titles, covers. And then there's another one that's called, I think, Yellow Peril. A bit of a racist term, I think, but we're going way back, and that's what they called it. And that's where it's sort of like a weird menace with something from the Orient on it from back then, and they called it Yellow Peril theme. And those are usually, they remind me of, what is that, Tech 18, with Fu Manchu. That style is in pulp world is considered a Yellow Peril theme. And those are always so creepy and cool and noir. And that's why I like them. Because I think back then, what they referred to as the Orient was still a very exotic, unknown, mysterious place. And it generated a lot of sort of noir mystery in American Western art at the time. And a lot of that was on pulp covers. And it just has such a cool noir mystery feel to it. And then the Weird Menace, of course, is more of just horrific type stuff. And those are the two pulp categories that I look out for, along with sci-fi stuff. Anything
We're going to get into that.
sci-fi, sci-fi, I love, even up into the 40s. And especially out of sci-fi, I like robots and time travel. But you're not going to find a lot of visual arts that depict time travel very effectively. But robots, yes. So I love sci-fi and robots.
Has anybody seen or know anything about this book? It's called Science and Invention. I did a lot of research on this because he had so many of them, and these are from 1923. This is actually, if you look at the bottom turn right there, it says science fiction number. He has 3 copies of the first time the words, and I'm going to show it on the big screen in a minute. This is the first time the word science fiction was ever uttered. And it's an article in a nonfiction magazine about writing stories based on science fiction. Now, there were always H.G. Wells, H.G. Wells, obviously, doing his thing. But this was called science fiction number. It's called Science and Invention. And literally they're talking about inventing ways of, it's bizarre, but what they thought life would be like today isn't. I mean, just watch the Jetsons and you understand where we're coming from. And that's from the 50s. Just imagine in the 1920s. But this is science fiction. Now, if you look this up, Science and Invention, you can look it up on your own. This is August of I think it's 26 or 23, August of 2023. We have 3 copies of it. And what made me stop and research some more, which I want to especially thank this collection and this man for this, was I learned over the last, I've gotten 7 hours of sleep in the last 4 days, probably total between my kids and this was from this is the first time you hear the term science fiction. And what makes this as crazy as it sounds is this is a nonfiction book that talks about fiction. Then they do fiction for the next 6 issues. And people complained about it and said, if you want to do this, go to pulp. That is what probably changed a lot of what, if you look at this, there's a lot of science and invention we have to go through. And if you literally have one that is nonfiction, nobody cares. I had the first issue, but he had a lot of popular mechanics and this stuff. And this one he has 3 of, and it's the first.
Frank Paul? Is that a Frank Paul cover?
It is a Frank Paul cover.
Did a lot. Yeah.
Yes, it is. That was a great job, by the way, because I was going to get into some Frank Paul in a little bit. But this is really cool that there are 3 of them in there. Usually these are so scarce, you never see them ever. And they're highly collected. If anybody wants to chum in here, this is sci-fi. We're going to get into some more sci-fi in a little bit. We have a planet to go to, which we're going to get into some planet in a little bit.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know if that was a publication by him, but another old name that was dominant in science fiction magazines back in probably turn of the century or early 1900s is Hugo Gernsback.
Right, and he's actually the design. He was the publisher. Yeah. I've got a few books of his. He was the publisher of Air War Stories, which I didn't bring any over because I do have, and I put together, I've got many issues of each one, except I've got 1 of 1, 1 of 4, 1 of 7, which individually 1 is worth a lot, 4 and 7 not so much. But to put all 11 of them together, Air Wonder Stories together in fine to very fine nice, would be the first time I've ever seen it sell. And if you don't know the cover, it's a buzzsaw flying saucer going through a biplane in the 20s. It's very cool. Look up Air Wonder Stories. I've got the complete set ready to go.
Here's a good one. Right.
Let me get into that. Hang on there. That's the one I'm talking about. Oh, that's Wonder Stories. That's different. Wonder Stories. Fine. I haven't even started that. I've got 8 totes of Wonder Stories. That one, Air Wonder Stories. Yeah. That one, I have 5 copies of that. One unopened.
Jeez.
So
not cover.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. He was.
We would have been friends with this guy.
At the 10 o'clock hour, I decided to share 2 very special things in this collection. One is this. and this is a letter, and I'm going to take it out, and I've read it, and I'm going to do this, and nobody freak out like the Action 1 bullshit or whatever was Superman 1. This is a letter, hand typed. This is a typing. I'm going to pull up the bottom right here, signed by Jack Williamson himself. And the letter says, "This is to ask permission to reprint 3 novelties of mine that appeared in the old pulp Argosy 8 or 10 years ago." Gives you an idea. Non-Stop to Mars, Starbright, and Gangsters in the Sky. I want to use them in a collection of my stories that Lloyd Essenbach is planning for his fantasy press in cloth book form. I suppose you'll have no objections, since I believe Argosy bought only American serial rights. Also, I would like to offer these stories to Avon Books for one of their paperback anthologies. They call them comics. A stamped envelope is enclosed, and I paid for it. And thank you for your attention, Jack Williamson. And then the response from Popular Publications says, "Enclosed herewith is the copyright releases." So I have the copyright release. I've got everything there all together for this story. I'm on a hunt to go find the original Argosy and the print that it was done in. But for all you H.P. Lovecraft fans, something that was in, and I'm going to talk about 2 of these in a minute here, but something that was very, very peculiar was it was very heavy, and it's made in glass. And I couldn't figure out what it is. And for the 26 people watching live on this and the 19 on Facebook and whoever, you're about to see something you will never see. This is a photograph of H.P. Lovecraft himself. I have many H.P. Lovecraft stories, books. Let's be honest, the Mountain story is still one of the best stories I've ever written, until I turned it over. And it says, "To Saul E. Loverman and gang, hope you enjoy July 30, 1931, H.P. Lovecraft."
Amazing.
So in this collection, there was some books.
Looks scary, even in that photo. He looks.
Oh,
scary.
he looks the same in every photo. But as this goes on, as I go through the thing, I find out that there is a copy of this book here, which is a very famous Astounding Stories, that is signed by him that he paid for. Now, it's not this one, but this is near mint. And if you don't know this story, that's Cthulhu.
Awesome.
And Get Lit with a Camel, right there. It's a great storyline, very hard to find book. And he signed the story that is my favorite story by H.P. Lovecraft. And I have to go to each one of these. And Lewis was freaking out when I was like, I have to open them up and read each one. I have to find the autograph. I know what page it's on. I've got pictures of it. The man took pictures of everything. It's called At the Mountain of Madness. And underneath his name is the signature, and I can't find it anywhere. So this was unopened until I had to look for the signature. And please forgive me, this is out of the bag. At the Mountains of Madness is my favorite story.
Oh.
Actually, I had the book.
Smell it.
It's funny. I have the first edition book several times. He had the first edition book too, but I have a copy of it. There are 5 books I have as my first edition. One is my Grail, which is I don't own it. I'm looking for The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway, first edition. If anybody finds that, that's my wife might get that for me for our wedding or anniversary, whatever. But that's what I really want right there. But this is one of my favorite H.P. Lovecraft stories. And this honestly looks better than if you bought a book today off the rack.
And how's it smell?
There's no smoke smell in any of this stuff.
But it smells like good pulp.
It smells pulpy, dying
Yeah.
paper, because pulp smelled like that as soon as they came out. But I just kind of brought this over here just for this. I haven't even touched Astounding, but I did find another Astounding. This is so cool, number one. This is so weird.
Yeah.
Starship Invincible. I wanted to show these
Pixelated before they knew what a pixel was.
Right. but very cool stuff. This was here. I want to share this Ghost Stories because they were bigger. Bed sheet, by the way, the two formats in pulps, there's four formats in pulps, but the main two formats as far as sizes go, pre-1951, is the standard pulp size, which is what you normally see, and the bed sheet format. This is not quite a bed sheet, not quite there. So I thought it was a magazine. No, this is a pulp, and it's a very beautiful copy of this.
That's a good one.
It is a very good one. When I found this,
This is amazing.
When I found this in the back of, it was literally it was used as a backing board for a bed sheet for Amazing Stories, H.P. Lovecraft story, obviously. That's there, and it was just really, really good book.
But don't you want to just keep most of this?
No,
God, it's so cool.
not when you've got the planets to break out. This is Planet One, and I'm actually gonna. This is in a bag here that I don't like, so I'll just take it out because it has those stupid things in the bag. This is Planet One, Planet Stories number 1.
Good
Got a
Lord.
couple of copies of this.
That is nice condition.
This is in nice condition. It
Man, I
really,
need a Planet Comics one.
yeah. Very nice book. Put it back in
It's
here.
really interesting how
But
much.
if there's a Planet Stories that if there's a Planet Stories that I think is really good, the Dragon Queen of Jupiter. If Planet Comics needed a photo to say what they're about, this would be it.
It's pretty good. It's so interesting that, comic books, they're smaller, and just because they have pictures in them are worth so much more. It's amazing. But this is so much earlier. It's like,
Well, the joke is a picture's worth 1,000 words. It doesn't matter if there's 50,000 more words in here.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the comic books, appealed to, I don't know, maybe, I don't want to say a broader audience, though, because when pulps were in their heyday, the print runs were much larger than you're used to for comics. They were millions and millions of copies of these pulps were put out, and it was a massive market. But comics appealed more to children and adults as opposed to just adults. So it brought in a whole nother demographic, and they're just much easier to read in a casual style too. So I think that helped comics really pick up steam.
All the nostalgia of being a kid and reading the comics. You miss out on all that from
Pulp's no joke. I mean, there was issues of The Shadow that had print runs of, I can't remember. I did some research on this, and I think it was like, I don't know, 10 million or something, 7 million, some crazy high number of print runs for some of these pulps. And it blew my mind because just some of the print runs on multiple pulps back then would blow away anything for comics.
What is the first pulp?
Well, there is no official first pulp. Because if you go back to 1912, there's platinum, because you can technically consider the old Mutt and Jeff's pulps. And they were in the teens. But if you go back to 1899, there were a few that were drawn covers. And then I showed Knights in 1892, what I called a robot by Frank Reed, that I thought was very interesting as well. But I'm investigating that as we speak. Actually, I have somebody doing some research at Pulp Fest coming up in Pittsburgh in August, where you will see some of these books there. What I'm going to do is talk to people about that, because I mean, I guess if you go by title, you've got the Argosy and All Stories kind of fight for first publication that continued, or went into the highlight of pulps. I do want to, at the time it is now, I promise I'd acknowledge the chat. First of all, thank you all for being here. I'm not going to yell at everybody in the chat because it'd be too many people, but I do want to shout out a few people that I looked at some of their comments. I'm going to put my glasses back on to read it. Gore Vidal agreed with me. First of all, At the Mountains of Madness is a wonderful story. It is absolutely it is my favorite Lovecraft story of the bunch. I like how they asked, one of the questions was earlier on. I wanted to make sure that I got that, because again, it's hard for me to see all the chat because there was a lot of talking in the background. But one of the things I did get a chance to see, I don't see every comment, by the way. I apologize. Rick Akers said, very cool illustrated world. Rick, thank you very much for all your help in this. I really appreciate you guiding me through this endeavor. I literally told him, I said, I think I stumbled across an Edgar. I'm in an Edgar Church situation going on here. I didn't know. I want to thank that. Kachun, Rick, everybody, thank you very much for being here. There was somebody else I just want to acknowledge really quick. Lewis, and there she is, to quote Khan, and there she is.
Where is he?
But I have him working right now. He's got a catalog, every one of these for me, with photos I've taken of. I mean, we're very eclectic people to begin with, but to do this the right way is to document everything.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing. I'm not like saying, "Hey, look what I found. Put it on eBay." Never going to happen. You will not see one of these books ever hit the bay. I promise you that. I believe in these belong in collectors' hands. They belong in the fans' hands. They belong in everybody else's hands. I want to thank Jeff, by the way, Golden Age Guru, for being here. But my personal believings, these belong in collectors' hands. Thank you very much. Now, Anthony Perdue has helped me a lot. Reprinted 1916 Robot Play Efficiency by Robert H. Davis, Perpetual Sheehan story similar to the Illustrated Magazine one. Right. It's one of those. I actually researched this as well. The world of, again, robots weren't, the name robot is later on, but mechanized men in print form, 1892, there's a Frank Reed. I've got several copies of it now. Originally, I thought I only had one. I found 5 more. 1892 full storylines of Frank Reed. Yes, Starling Stories Volume Issue 2 is for first show. Yeah, Josh, I couldn't find it. And I think I went through the Starling Stories, but we never know, because literally in a stack of hardcovers, I found out what's coming up next. So you never know. Plus a foot fetish cover on your favorite pulp. Yeah, absolutely my favorite one. There's as far as grading pulps and everything, I use a lot of Bookery's Guide. I have Frank Robinson's collection. I have his auctions. I've got a stack of research material like this for each one, and we're documenting everything with high points, low points of value in this year, as well as previous years, and with the price purchase and everything else. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. It really is. Are there Harry Houdini bedsheet size pulps in the Imaginarium collection? No, there are not, Alan. I apologize about that. I saw this weird. There happened a few times where he collected everything all the way up to like Famous Monsters magazines, the whole run of Heavy Metal, the whole run of everything else. But included in there was the reprint editions of Terror Tales and the Harry Houdini Weird Tales. So when I saw this one that was in a top loader in minty white Houdini cover of the Weird Tales with the look like this, the heart pounds, at that moment. And then I look at it and I look at the pages, and everybody's like, is this it? But you look at the pages, and the pages inside are white, and you know for a fact pulps are never white pages inside. So you're okay. And Lee, thank you very, very much. Love it at the Mountains of Madness. Okay, we're not done. We got some more logging books. Yeah, Lewis just said, what's he doing? Logging books. So let's just show some more. I didn't show this one yet, right?
I don't think so. That's yeah. actually.
I did show that one. Okay, so now I know where.
So I'm guessing he didn't have many westerns.
No, but he did have every railroad and every war one of World War One. In between World War One and Two, he had something which I'm researching now is the pulp thing, and I've got people looking at it, making sure I've got the right one. But if you want to know, so here's one here, well known, great cover. Actually, I have two.
I think that would fall into the yellow peril category. That
Right. I'll get into yellow peril in a minute. I know it's a sensitive talk, but we've got two of them in here.
Yeah.
But we've got that, and but there's so many good books in here. But the book that the first book I pulled out that I thought was a reprint when I was mistaken that it was not a reprint was this.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Nice.
But if you want to see what's really good about it,
Other than the reds, which aren't faded, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah. Other than that,
that's fine. And I want to show you the back cover. There's not a dust mark on it.
Yeah, those are nice.
And this is a book I've known about because that's Dr. Satan. And Dr. Satan, I've always looked for the first appearance of Dr. Satan, which we'll get into in a little bit. At the 10:30 mark, I'm going to drop another big one for everybody to see. So, no wonder why, because I got 3 copies of it. So that's
Yeah, and I think you can tell the Brundage covers. They have this really just silky smooth feel to them, which I think makes them so popular for the Weird Tales run.
4 copies now.
I mean, you get to see it's always so silky smooth on her covers, and they really have a good feel to them. Some of the best stuff in pulps is you got a lot of Brundage in this. A lot of Brundage.
Yes, a lot of Brundage, which I'm going to get into some Brundage in a little bit because at the 10:30 mark, I'm going to show another one.
Satan, there he is.
There is Dr. Satan, first appearance. Meet the sinister and mysterious Dr. Satan. Ongoing storyline in pulps is Conan, Tarzan, Khazar, Zorro,
Shadow,
Doc Savage, Shadow. But a title of a side character of a villain is not as common. A lot of times in the crime ones, the hero's done within the length of a pulp, like it's a sitcom. Don't worry about it. They'll figure it out at the end of the half hour, But this is a really cool cover because it combines the skull, the devil, the very dark GA of everything. Great book.
Any of those crime ones with the Batman prototype kind of pre-Batman guy? I forget what he's called, but you know what I'm talking about.
Green Hornet was before Batman. I'm just saying.
I'll have to look for it, but he looks kind of like Batman, and people were saying that he was Batman was based on him.
I may. Here's.
I know who you're talking about. Knights.
Is that Spy? Was it in
Spicy
Spider?
Spicy Detective?
No, there was one called The Spider, but I think it was a book called The Spider or something. Or was it The Spider?
Was Spider Stories as a pulp.
There was also that old publication, I think early 1900s, maybe, Spring-Heeled Jack. Also, but I think you're talking about that hardcover book.
Gore Vidal says that William Hearst. Yes, he did. Yes, he absolutely did. This is a very well-known book in the pulp world, and I do love that it's fully intact in beautiful condition. Again, every one of these, he bought them a lot of these Weird Tales he purchased in 2002. At a very fine grade, and he hadn't touched them. I mean, this tape on the back is older than that, but I didn't want to open this one, and I haven't checked everything about it. But
Black Mask. I'm pretty sure Black Mask that I'm talking about.
Oh, Black Mask. Yeah, Black Mask is its own title. The Red Ether. This is a pretty well-known cover. This is a very good one from 1926. We're 5 minutes away from another Marie Brundage drop. Another great kind of a red-hooded menace. This isn't Dr. Satan. This is a really well-known cover.
Yeah, that's a very well-known one, yeah.
Yeah, and it's absolutely, again, I'm going to share a condition with everybody so everybody sees what I'm talking about. And, of course, it's got my favorite Shakespeare, A Midsummer's Night Dream. Actually, that's not true. Cry havoc and unleash the gods of war. I've always wanted to play Henry VIII. One of my favorite Weird Tales covers.
Wait, I think
it's a dinosaur.
I think it's the Black Bat.
Oh, the Black Bat. We have bats coming in 4 minutes. But if you see here, this is a great one, the Great Dinosaur cover. There's a really cool science, and there's a really couple of books I have with some dinosaurs trampling through the cities that are really cool. A million years after. They just come back to life. It's Jurassic Park before, chaos theory didn't take place, But there you go. Some more here. If you get bored, let me know.
Yeah, we're so bored.
The Phantom of the Opera. This is a very classic, one of the best ones. I put this backing board in it, and I'm probably going to redo it, but I wanted to show the spine in the back, but it's really good condition. The reds are really bright, and I love the White Wolf, if you were the Winter Soldier fans out there. I got one here for DS that DS collects a certain style of dark GA that he loves.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I've seen that one before.
Yeah, this is more modern. This is when they're kind of rubbing up against people. This is 45. I wanted to show this one before I get into the next few. But this is a great one. The Fiddler Vampire, they call it.
Yeah, nice. Lost people.
Yep. Just a great, and again, condition is very nice. It's very good. I love the way the lettering is done. It's weird because I'm doing Weird Tales, but it happens. I wanted to do this one in a little bit, but I'll get ready for the next run. I've actually owned a very good copy of this book, but the one thing about this book is my favorite Jack Williamson story is here. And it's Robert E. Howard's story is in the same pulp, and I thought this was great. The Robert E. Howard, it's a Marie Brundage cover, it's a Margaret Brundage cover. It's a Robert E. Howard, and it's my favorite Jack Williams story, and a Conan, Hour of the Dragon Conan story, as well as a Jack Williamson story, as well as a Robert E. Howard story. So it's really hard for me not to open this up and read it right now. But I promised, with this condition, I'd rather not. I'll wait for the, I probably own the Conan story already. But this is one of Marie Brundage's, one of my favorite works by her. Because while it's not showing Nip, it's certainly insinuating it.
Can I show you something on the screen?
Yes, here it comes. Give me a break for a second so I can grab something.
Here it is. This has been reported as being an inspiration for Batman. I think it might be the Black Bat. And look at that, his cape. Definitely, all he needs is ears.
Yeah, I can see the resemblance. Yeah,
pretty awesome.
Nice.
This guy probably didn't care about those because there's no sci-fi in there.
I'm going to show one more Weird Tales, then I'll show some more Weird Tales, and then I'll come back to some other stories in a minute here. I just wanted to show 2 Lovecraft stories. Oh, sorry. Look at that. Star Wars. Nice.
Porg.
Very good. Here's an H.P. Lovecraft story that I did not read in here. It's actually, this one's I'm sorry. Good seeing everybody though. Look at this book. I miss you guys. This got a weird kind of a centaur thing going on.
Yeah.
And it's the trail of, so this kind of crossbreeds into the whole thing. And I want to shout out a fact that not only is it gone, but now we've gone 7 years and this book is still for free. But there it is. It's just really kind of crosses into a lot of worlds with one cover. I mean, because this guy's he's got his eyes on one thing and one thing only.
Dude, this guy must have had a great novel collection too, right?
I don't even want to get into that yet. I have as many hardcovers as you can imagine.
Your Hemingway might be in there.
It's not.
Oh.
I could recognize it from.
If you got a Hobbit in there, you got to let me know.
Okay, so it's 10:30. I'm a little late on this one. So something everybody wanted to see. They said, "Did you get the Black Bat?" We found one.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we found two.
I think
we found a near mint copy.
Yeah, I think that's considered. I
Good night.
could be wrong, but I think that's like the Chamber 19, the iconic cover of pulps. Maybe not the most expensive, maybe not the earliest, maybe not the biggest key, but for cover, I think that is the iconic pulp cover, and that's why it's on that book right there. I think that's like the Chamber 19 of PCH would be the same comparison.
I want to compare the colors of a book from a couple of years ago and this one.
Yeah, I mean, it looks exactly the same.
Yep. Spine intact.
Yeah, those are awesome.
So is she the illustrator?
Marie Brundage is, yes.
That's really
Margaret Brundage. Sorry, I always say Marie because I'm used to Marie Severin. But Margaret Brundage, there's a lot of good stuff. I was waiting to find like a whole stack of paintings. But
Yeah.
I'm not giving up. She did a lot of the weird tales that I've shown already.
Maybe he kept the best stuff in like a secret room.
I've already paid for we already bought 2 of his storage facilities that didn't work out. So we're buying everything this guy had. But for those of you that wanted to see the Weird Tales bat, I promise I do it at the 10 or the 90-minute mark. We still have more to go, by the way. We still have a lot of surprises to go.
How much are those? I don't know those, but are they like Amazing Stories one kind of price?
I didn't bring my Amazing Stories one over.
There's been a couple.
The Buck Rogers one,
No, this is okay. I don't know if I'm 100% accurate, but you'll find I have 3 of these and 2 of those, so that gives you an idea. But this is it's all about condition when you get into this level. The condition on this is white back, and that book is still for fucking sale. But it's right here. It's good. I mean, it's not good. It's impeccable. As well as this one is very, very good, or very nice, or very fine, if I want to be accurate. And the one that is fine plus or fine, it just has a few marks on the spine. Missing the bottom half of the spine right here. So that's about it. I mean, they're really good.
Super iconic, but I mean, is that worth one? I don't know. Journey into Mystery 83.
I think one of those in and I'm not an expert, but I see some of them on eBay sell and on Heritage. I think a nice condition copy of that sells for a couple grand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think a similar condition First Buck Rogers probably sells around the same, maybe a little more.
Right. But when you're talking,
a decent Buck Rogers first sell for just over $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere, I can't remember where I saw it.
I saw a fine sell.
Too close.
Now you got to understand, in the pulp world, good is the equivalent of mid-grade, Very good is high mid grade, and fine is high grade. I don't know if it's the highest I've ever seen, but that one Buck Rogers, it's VF/NM, and I don't know. I think the highest of that versus that, I kind of think the Buck is going to beat it out because of the condition of the Buck. Again, we're only talking 8 years apart, but Weird Tales was published a lot. Amazing Stories was published a lot. There are a lot of copies of both out there. But again, it's comparing Chamber 19 with, let me give a book that came out just before right there. Chamber 19 versus what's a pretty any Captain America Golden Age, you know.
Did you get the first few copies of the first 10 issues of Weird Tales?
I have one of the 2 of the first 10.
Yeah, some of the real early ones I think are like almost black and white with just some red.
They don't look the same.
They look almost like newspaper things.
I was going to take a break from Weird Tales to show.
I have a picture of number 1 if you want.
This is a great book. You don't see that often. Have you guys ever seen this one?
No,
I've never seen it.
This is really weird that I found this in this condition. This is technically like one of the earliest renditions of science and fantasy. It's there. You'll see it in any of the catalogs and everything else. It's a pretty hard one to find. It's just a cool book. I was hoping there. I want to show a Strange Tales. This one. This is volume 2, I believe. It's October 3rd, 32. I actually have all of volume 2 and the first one of volume 1 in a bound format.
I think wasn't there only 3 issues of volume 1?
Right. 3 issues of volume 1, 3 issues of volume 2, 1 issue of volume 3.
Okay.
And I've got the second half. I've been looking for the bound volume of Strange Tales 1.
You have the Strange Tales with the puppeteer?
I have it in the bound form. I know that.
Yeah, that Strange Tales with the puppeteer is my favorite. It's
I'll look for it. I mean, the bound book won't be as much as they would be individually, but they're good.
How about
again?
Saucy? Did you get any of those saucy? What is it?
I didn't. Oh, I got a lot of
movies.
I found a lot of movies from the turn of the century adult films. A lot of pictures of turn of the century adult film. A lot of Joan Crawford kind of stuff. And I don't mean that turn of the century, but a lot of weird adult was found. Is that enough? I wanted to show some Marvel Tales again. One more. One of my favorite things of the Marvel Tales was this book here from 1939. It's just a kick-ass cover.
Great one.
It's one of my favorites of the pulp era right there.
There's a Marvel I'm looking for.
39. It's actually I'd love to. It's. I gotta show. I don't want to open it up right now, but eventually I will. I've had a few drinks, so I don't want to open it up. But the back of it is ridiculously good. Charles, go upstairs. Go tell mommy the TV's over.
Hey, show the screen real quick. I'll show you the first Weird Tales or Weird.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. If you were at C2E2 3 years ago, they guy had one there.
Yeah,
Charles, go upstairs. Don't play with Spider.
Yeah, it's got like a black and white sort of look to it. It looks totally different than what you're used to.
The unique.
Yeah, I think those super early ones would sell for a really lot because
here's another one.
See those.
Yep, that one. Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I got there's for some reason this is very expensive, but I'm not sure why.
Probably because it just says Zeppelin. It's got a Zeppelin on it.
Yeah.
Probably pretty rare too, but
I like this one.
Yes, that's one I was hopefully gonna find.
Yeah.
It's almost up there with the foot fetish.
I like the Houdini one. I think it's much after these though, but
It's not that far after that. It's in the
it's
first
got the
volume.
black cover
Yeah,
like that.
right here.
It's
Here
the
you go.
fifth one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there-
and it's the fifth. It's the fifth of the series, right?
That one is that's one of my absolute favorite pulps of all time, right there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't find that. I found the reprint, and I told you what I thought of it. Those are actually there. Yeah, saucy movie. Yep.
Why are those so much? Just because there's nudity?
They weren't. Well, you have common. The thing about pulps, and just a little thing about pulps, really quickly, is pulps have. There's 3 grading criterias outside of the quality of the book. It's the rarity scarcity factor. So it starts as common, uncommon, then it goes scarce. And I've heard super scarce. I don't know if I acknowledge it, but there's super scarce. There's rare and very rare. And all stories, Tarzan is very rare. As far as I know, and I might be wrong on this, but I heard there's less than a dozen that exist, or people have seen less than a dozen, and 3 of those have been restored in some fashion, and 4 are incomplete. So when I got this collection, when I was going through it, I said, if I find a complete Tarzan in here, in one of these ridiculous conditions, but I didn't.
You're sitting on $1 million book.
Remember, I said that the first Tarzan to me is worth more than the Action 1 because there's less of them.
Well, there's less of them. It's older. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I mean that's the Action 1 of pulps. Obviously, I don't know, a nice condition one of that, complete, unrestored. I think $1 million would be reasonable for that.
So back to weird tales before I go to another one here, and then we'll end it here in a little bit. But this one here is. Let me just bring a. Sorry, great seeing you guys. By the way.
Yeah,
I have. This is ridiculous. I love how the reds are just solid reds, and I just love the innuendos and everything you want to do right there. You've got everything you want right here in a pulp, and the back is white. Spine is yellow, but it was actually made yellow with red writing, so you can actually see everything if you look carefully. Hope you can see that on the camera. Yeah. Okay, good. I wanted to show that. People are like, oh, it's yellow. I'm like, well, it's for a reason. I'm going to show some one of the best outstanding stories I found. A couple of copies of this. This is pre-Kong. But really cool.
Yeah, that's nice. That's what is that? It's got to be 30s.
Yep, 1932. January of 32. And I've got to go through the Astounding Collection soon. Haven't done that one yet. One of my favorite Planet books, my favorite 2 Planet stories, not one, were these 2.
Yeah, those are nice. I like both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. Really good condition here. What's the matter, Charles? Mommy's upstairs in bed. Go see mommy in bed. Go lay in bed with mommy, okay? It's too late for you. You gotta go to bed. And this one again, another great copy. This one, again, it's one of my favorite Lovecraft in there. But again, they get away without showing anything because they put smoke over everything. It's just a different era in time. And this is behind 2 bags because he apparently liked this cover. I've got a few of these of July of 33. Yeah, but I can't turn the TV on. Buddy. So that's there. And the other... I want to end it on pray I find the signed copy of this. I found 2 copies so far, unsigned. I haven't started the whole run yet, but this is what I'm going for next. And what you just saw was less, we'll say, about, my opinion, half of the collection that is valuable, because he's got a lot of the famous Fantastic Funnies, or whatever you want to call those. The famous, not the famous, you know what I'm talking about, the famous Fantastic Mysteries, Fantastic Adventures. There's some good ones. There's some future stories. And what you just saw was just a small of what I've gone through. There are hundreds, thousands more that are in the collection. But I just wanted to keep that under exactly the time. Boy, I kept on time. Good. So
I'm so jealous.
don't be.
About when I was researching pulps and I was into them for a minute, there was I was into the sci-fi, obviously, and I found what I couldn't, to my own satisfaction, confirm that it was, but I had seen numerous places call it the first sci-fi magazine ever published in the world, and it was a German publication called Der Orchidee Endgarten, and I actually thought it had some really cool cover art, and I speak German enough that I could read those and enjoy them. And I actually came upon a full run of that. It had like 31 issues or something like that total, from like 1917 to 1921, something like that range. So it predated some of this American stuff that we're talking about. And it was the full run of those, and it was like $11,000. And I didn't have that much at the time, and I wasn't willing to put out that much for pulps for the whole collection. But I feel like it was a pretty rare collection of sci-fi pulps from Germany. Just really cool stuff. So anybody who's into this stuff, if you want to check that out, I'll put it in the chat. I just thought if you're into the
He was German.
Cool.
He was German and had quite a few German books. So if you send me pictures of those, I'll look for them.
Yeah, I put the name of it.
I wouldn't have recognized the title, probably.
Yeah, the name of it in the chat, and I'll send you some pictures of it offline, and you can see if there's any in there. But
yeah,
pretty tough to come by and pretty early, and really, really cool. And they have a different art style. There's a European influence to the art as opposed to the American influence. So it's totally different than anything you saw coming out of here around that time. Just super cool items, and a full run of that. I don't know how you value that. I guess if you're super hardcore in pulp collecting, I would have maybe done it. But, that's a big purchase for somebody who's a comic book collector who just is dabbling in pulps to lay out that kind of money for that. But it probably was a rare opportunity, because I doubt you may never find a full run of those again.
Yeah, that's sounds exactly something like he would do. I actually found some Faust. Again, he went down the dark path. We found several copies of the Book of the Dead. Some in republished, obviously, in different languages. One of them was German, but I also found some the Faust storyline in German as well, which I thought was really cool.
Did you find anything bound in human skin?
I did not. He didn't seem like that kind of a guy. I think he was actually, I think he looked to solve his own inner demons, and he self-diagnosed himself. Stacks of psychology books, stacks of physics books, mathematics, color schemes, how colors can influence you, how art influences life, and then sci-fi, and whether it be Lovecraft or Arthur C. Clarke or Heinemann, or the fact that he mentioned the Puppet Masters in one of his entries, which I'll show you something here that is pretty rare. Collected poems of H.P. Lovecraft, signed inside by the guy who put it together, Frank Ottefel. If you don't know, is one of the top 2 behind Jost, being a.
I got a cool.
But when you're dealing in Lovecraft, when you find first editions of books as well.
Oh yeah, nice.
All Arkham. If you don't know Arkham is. I brought this book home. This one. And this is what my literally is the. Oops, sorry, it's upside down and there. About to pour myself my last drink. I'm going to show this on the big screen real quick, and then we're going to chat a little bit. The Horrors and Unpleasantries, a bibliographical history to the collector's price guide to Arkham House. This is older, but it was done by some people who, this was years ago, and books were in the hundreds of range, and it talks about who was doing it. And for us comic guys and pulp fans, it's the who's who of the dark GA. Is that all right? Can I borrow that for a minute? Between Lovecraft, Jack Williamson. I mean,
Did he have a first edition Lovecraft books?
well, there nothing from the 1920s. I mean, there are, but they were second. They were like Scriber and Sons. If you don't know how to collect books, if you see Scriber and Sons, that's usually a reprinting of the first print. It's like a reprint, not technically a second edition. It's not a first edition. It's a first edition reprint. It usually would happens with Hemingway's, happens with everything else. The value, let's say, is $5,000 for Sun Also Rises, or $5,000 for an X book, and then when it goes Scriber and Sons, the value drops dramatically, but they're still collectible because it's only a year or two later. If you're interested in collecting hardcover books, that's a whole nother world that I have been delving in way too long in my life. Actually,
Can you show my screen real quick?
Yes, I can.
This is a neat chart. It's about Marvel Goodman's publishing, but it's a cool chart. It shows how much
See the chart. Move it over.
We see your face, not the chart.
But you don't see.
Keep moving over. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Good.
Well, I wanted to start at the.
Oh, okay.
But so you could see the blue, and that's 1933. That's the pulps he published, and you could, and the second line is about 100 per year. So he almost got to 100 pulps, and it wasn't until about halfway, almost in between 42 and 41 where comics actually took over. So pulps were huge, and like you were saying about the millions and millions published.
Oh, they were. I want to share with everybody my first edition of one of my 5.
And then look how high it went in Marvel's 1957, which is pretty crazy. It was the peak.
Nice.
And then it dropped, right from the end of the Golden Age, and then it starts going up even, and that's pretty crazy. So look at this. Fantastic Four is here.
Yeah, still pretty low.
So compared to the peak of the Golden Age, comics is nothing. It's amazing.
Right. This book I bought, what year is this? 19 years ago, for $100. He's got one in here in this collection. This is my copy of it, The Mountains of Madness. It's my favorite Lovecraft story. I don't know how he got his, but it took me, as hard as it is to find, let's say here's the thing. It's easier for me to find comics than it is for me to find first edition books. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't buy this from Abe's Books or anything else. I got this from a bookstore in Kingston, New York. When the owner there reached out to me, says, "I hear you're interested in this book. I've got a first edition in fine, and I want it." And I saw the copy that he has, and I'm like, damn. But I'm keeping my copy because it's got the price I paid for it on the inside. So, being a
more established market.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing first edition books for a few of them, and a lot of signed books, whether it be
books before comics.
Well, I'm going to celebrate with everybody. I'm going to pour my Redbreast 15. in here and have my last drink of the night with you guys and say thank you guys for joining us. Thank everybody for being here. This has been the start to a whirlwind for me for the next 3 to 6 months. I've got a lot to go through, a lot to look at. The other book I wanted to show, one first edition book that he had that I've actually never seen in person, and it's called Something About Cats, and it's from Arkham, and I put it in a Ziploc bag because that's what I found it, and it's there. This is really hard to find, so I would rival this not as much as this any day.
Where was the Lovecraft photo? I'm curious. Like, was it just chilling in the bins?
No, it was in his binder.
Okay.
There was also a Charles Dickens work from 1872, but I have to have somebody check out the provenance of it. I have to make sure the provenance is from the exact era of Charles Dickens, and it is exactly a Charles Dickens book, but I need to make sure because it could be what's called the library version, which there are, again, pre-1918.
This is how life was for comic collectors before CGC. You had to talk to all these random people and try to network.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I miss doing this. It's not, nowadays, if I yell out to you guys, what's an ASM 300? We could probably name off what a 9.8 goes for, a 9.6, a 9.4, a 9.2, a 9.0, or even our Golden Age books. We know, I mean, I have learned so much from you two guys about your eras of the Golden Age.
There's no debating. There's no
it's what it is now. I mean,
well, that's why when it comes to Golden Age comics, I really like some of the more obscure, rare stuff, which I admittedly don't own very much of that stuff as far as what I would like to. But I really like when you find a book like that, or you're talking to somebody about a book like that, and there's nothing on GPA. There are no sales. And you just have to wing it, and it's a much more engaging experience where you're valuing the book based on how you feel about it and how it looks, and it seems much more natural to do it that way. Now, I'm all for the GPA data explosion and the market prices. It makes it very easy. It increases the liquidity of a lot of books, so it's very helpful if you're moving books in the market. So I do like it, but I really enjoy what has become the minority of transactions where nobody knows, and you just sort of have to bounce it off each other. What's this book worth? And, people arrive at vastly different values for certain books, and it's a fun part of the hobby that still exists with very rare and obscure books. I really enjoy that part of it.
That's what gravitates me to some of the old Japanese stuff. It's even people there.
Yeah.
Don't even.
I got to show you my Japanese Darth Vader doll.
Oh yeah, you do.
Yeah, well, it's over there right now. I have it. Gorbadal brought up a great comment. Lovecraft, a biography by L. Frank de Camp. If you don't know L. Frank de Camp, he did Conan. He's worked with Bernie Wrightson. He worked with everybody. He's one of my favorite people that I've ever dealt in literature because he's a secondary storyteller. That's the best way to put him. He tells a story the second time. And if you're around a campfire, like a joke I used to tell people, I'd always want to have a campfire where Hemingway was telling a story and L. Sprague de Camp was next to him, retelling it in a better way. And just because my favorite Bernie Wrightson piece I own, which other than the original art, is a signed copy of the Conan book from the Baltimore Press that there's less than 2,000 of, signed by Bernie Wrightson and L. Sprague de Camp. And when I met him and asked him, I said, I felt like that scene in Boondock Saints so you're the funny man, tell me a joke. I felt like that guy when I'm like, I just want to hear you tell a story. because he rewrites stories in such a way that, you know, one of the other books I love so much is The Puppet Master. This is a first edition Puppet Master. I actually have a lot of similarities to this, a very eclectic human being that passed, that had this pulp collection. I share a lot with it, and he was into Star Wars, maybe not as into the art of Star Wars or the Vaderness of it. I mean, you all know what I go a little bit over the top with, but that's what we all do, right? I mean, we all are over the top in our own eclectic way. But when I get into when you're talking literature and everything else, I've read my life. I still may watch an hour of television a week total, and it might just be The Falcon Winter Soldier or something like that. I grew up reading a ton, fiction, nonfiction, didn't matter what it was. I mean, like my top 5 books, somebody asked me that, Lewis asked me that, and I said, well, Count of Monte Cristo, number 1. Sun Also Rises, At the Mountains of Madness, The Puppet Masters, and John Adams by actually I it's always, I always compare the two. Dave McCullough's John Adams story because of his relationship with Abigail, when I started to realize that my relationship with women would be defined by the second president of the United States, how I would handle things and be much more communicative or communicating, or whether it be how I deal in business or I deal in finance and everything else like that. I actually use the great Doris Kearns book about Abraham Lincoln, that the movie was based on, like 2 chapters of that book. The Lincoln, the Spielberg one, Doris Kearns's book. It's one of those things where comic books in general, why I read everything, why I really appreciate Knights when he reads open the story, or DS when you're a book guy too, I can tell, because you don't own, you have to read it as well. And that's the main thing that I always tell everybody about comics is, why did you collect comics? I said, well, I wasn't always a collector.
Yeah.
I was a reader first. And I was a born reader into reading, and I teach my children that. And I think that's one of the lost things that in today's visual society / I'm not saying television, I'm saying social media, internet, and everything else. YouTube. We're on YouTube. No offense to you, YouTube. But if I want to research a new hollow site or a new, well, something less controversial, research something, I asked the guys at the store, and I'm like, hey, is there a book or something I can buy to read on this? About, like, I read a book about gems because I bought a facility that had gems in it. And so I wanted to know if I could tell the difference between a precious, semi-precious, or what was going on, what was manufactured, what wasn't. An opal versus a agate, an agate versus petrified, going down the line. And he's like, you can look that up on YouTube. I'm like, can you just get me a book? And the look on his face was, why would you read a book if you can watch it? I'm like, I get it. That's the difference between being over 45 or being over 40 and not being over 40, maybe,
Did he have any of these books?
What is that? Dungeons and Dragons?
No.
That's the Evil Eye, isn't it?
Oh,
no, actually, I didn't see anything of that.
This I would love.
No, there was no. I was actually looking for. I did find a first edition of The Stand by Stephen King, but outside of that, I did not see any Tolkien. I did see, like I said, he had the Puppet Master, like I would, and I kind of knew after when I started to get into his psyche of what he would have. I started to look at what he would have that wouldn't be Lovecraft, and I found a new guy I want to read. He had this first edition book called Genius Loki and Other Tales, which is somebody I've never read, but I mean, I'm not going to open this copy of it, but I'm going to actually research it because it sounds like something.
He likes the horror. I mean, did you look for any ratty old pamphlets that might be Edgar Allan Poe?
I found quite a bit of Edgar Allan Poe stuff.
Those are millions and millions.
I did not find any pamphlets. I did find 19 from Baltimore, 1923, which I'm having research done on it. Again, I'm researching a lot on it. Everything, I'm enjoying this so much. Just to let you know, I pretty much quit my job to do this for now, which I was quitting anyway. So let's be honest. I was going to take some time off. Time off for the summer and everything else, spend some time with the kids. That's not happening. I'm spending some time in my 74-year-old compadre who collected pulps like I collected comics that influenced me on my decision making or life in general. I mean, I joke, but I understand why DS and I both love Thor. We're both very similar in very ways. He's much more into the dark GA, and I'm much more into the good girl art. But that just makes us just, one sadistic and one perverted. So just all good and well.
Well, what I liked about the Thor growing up, I mean, that was my first exposure to comics.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got exposed and started looking into other comics and reading them when I was a kid. But the Thor adventures, it was the, looking back, it was the fantasy element of that really grabbed me above the other stuff like the Spider-Man. The more sort of like grounded street type stories never grabbed me as much as the fantasy stuff, the horror stuff, the dark stuff. I mean, my favorite villain was Mephisto. So, I mean, what does that tell you?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, well, I'm not going to lie. It's always Thanos Invader. It always was. I mean,
yeah, Thanos pretty badass. Yeah.
I have the 70s versions of Thanos. Big news about my own George Perez thing. So if you don't know, the original logo I had of Vader holding the Infinity Gauntlet, the original drawing of that was destroyed in a flood. George Perez gave up it doesn't do any sketches anymore or anything else like that. However, through a friend, through a conversation with George and everything else like that, he heard this story and he wanted help with something that I could help with. And they said, sure, no problem. I have somebody in your area that could take, your family and you can, or your wife and you can go sit down and talk with. I think you would enjoy it. And how can I repay you? I said, well, I have to pay some things here and there, but I says, well, if I cover half, can you redo my logo? And he goes, oh, your picture. He calls it your picture. He goes, let me do it better. So he's doing a whole full thing for me. I don't know when, probably not going to get it for months, but I'm okay with that, But that happened to me this week. Everything, it's funny because last Thursday, I was having a rough day at the job that I had, and I was just made the decision. And I said, it's time for me to move on. I'm not happy here. It's affecting home life. I need to make a decision. The next day, it was St. Patrick's Day. I was made shepherd's pie. I went home and made shepherd's pie that night. And I was depressed. I was nervous about everything. I had to talk to the wife about it. And that night, he said, hey, can you help me? Can you come to Bellevue, which is just south of Omaha? Can you come here and help me out and take a look at this stuff? I'm like, sure, no problem. I'm not doing anything tomorrow. Plus, I can stop by a shop and pick up some stuff I might need. And he said, it's just a lot of stuff I don't know what it is. The chances, again, I'm a pulp buyer. I'm a pulp collection buyer. And for this to come to me, synchronicity, God is good, and I believe in all that and everything else, and he's looking out for my family and me. And I partially own the collection. I own every book in it with somebody, and it's a lot of fun. And I hope everybody gets this opportunity once in their life to. This has happened to me before, the Western Pen collection. It's like, but this is way better than the Western Pen because I have no competition. The Western Pen was cutthroat between Sharon at Worldwide Comics, myself, Terry, everybody, and everybody was chomping at the bit to rip that collection apart. This was a collection that it's no other way to say it fell in my lap. And it's ironic that it's me because, and no offense to anybody else in here, but I knew exactly what I was looking at as it's going on. I'm like, oh my God, I know exactly what this is. I've owned this. I've looked for this one. But when you see this,
Yeah.
and then it wasn't that it was in there. It was when I looked at it and I said, this can't be the real one. And I'm going to ask, I'm going to watch Heritage's auction coming up. And I know, Rick, thank you very much for everything you guys do. And I'm definitely thankful for you and your whole team. But this is...
I'm glad you got to keep it and not dump it onto...
Well, I think it deserves... I mean, everybody's asking for these, and I know most of the collection's going to go. It has to. I mean, that's what it's there for. We've got a partner, and we have to figure out business and everything else. But the one thing I want you to know is that my goal of this collection is to get it in the hands of collectors. This collection, while it's temporarily in my possession, I think I owe it to the rest of the pulp community and everybody else to say we should all share in this, and you're going to pay because I got to have people pay for it. But I don't want it to, and no offense to Heritage or anybody else, because I believe that they serve a great purpose, but I'm not the guy who says, can you just buy my collection? I need the money. No, we're going to work on this. And we're going to have claim sales for the lower books. And I've got, by the way, what you just saw was might be less than 3% of what we've got. But you did see the big ones, which, let's be honest, is what everybody wanted.
I hope you find one of these.
I did find some cool Poe stuff.
The pamphlet.
But because he lived here, and
got bad conditions.
A lot of that is in Maryland and in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. Actually, 90% of the Poe stuff I've seen has been found in there, because I've always said, if I want to quote The Raven Nevermore or The Mask of the Red Death, the first actual not Poe illustrated version of The Mask of a Red Death is in one of the pulps I have.
Wow.
And if you don't know The Mask of the Red Death, just watch The Shining and you'll understand that's pretty much the premise of The Shining, is the different rooms meaning different things. And the Red Death is actually the plague. And he avoids going into the one room, but the rooms start to merge together. It gets very bizarre. It's everybody loves A Telltale Heart, and the poem, the Raven, is great, and everything. One of the greatest things to be alive in our era is that you can go out and access all this stuff for free, which is great. I think it's phenomenal. But if you ever get a chance to sit down and read a really crazy Poe story, look up Mask of the Red Death. It's absolutely way over the top. So
isn't he trying to avoid?
The Good Earth.
Isn't that one he's trying to avoid getting sick by staying in his house?
Well, right. Well, there's a party
because it's like
at his house
last year.
There's a lot of people at his house. This is very COVID related, and he's trying to avoid the plague. And the Mask of the Red Death, it's a masquerade party. And if you don't know, each room,
put your mask on.
Each room has a theme. There's a yellow room where the party's in the yellow room, but he's got to go and check in on each room. But he keeps avoiding the Red Death. But the whole time I'm not going to give out the secret, but behind him the whole time is the Red Death. And it's just literally the illustrated version that I've looked at has it as a bed sheet just with like red blotches on it. Very, very gory done. And by the way, I did find some signed stuff by what's his name? The guy who did Isaac Asimov's Alien. Frank Kelly, what's his name? Frank Kelly Reese. Somebody in the chat will know.
Yeah, I don't know who it is.
I'll show you his work really quick because I might as well get this out of the way because you're going to recognize the robot. I know his first name is Frank and I know his middle name is Kelly.
Freeze.
Freeze, yes. I said that. I got it right then. I mean, I always mess him up with a different one, but if you have a look at some of his work, let me download a quick picture right here. I've got
Kelly Freeze.
yeah.
Kelly Freeze did some cool pulp stuff.
Yes. I have 2 signed copies of Astounding from the 50s.
Yeah, he also did a pretty good comic book cover. Can't remember the name of it, but it's a painted cover with the redhead running across the skulls being chased. It's not Nightmare. Is it Nightmare? Can't remember the name of that one.
Let me just show people in the chat what these are. We're getting old. It's getting late, but I want to show the 2 most famous ones that I always think of when I think of him, because I've always wanted to find an original artwork of his. He did a Weird Tales. Is that the one you're talking about? What comic did you? What do you remember?
He did a comic, The Witchcraft. Knight showed a picture of it. It's Witchcraft. It's a green cover. I can't remember. Was it number 3 or something?
Okay.
Knight's had a picture of it up.
Yeah, Frank Kelly Freeze. He signed 1 Frank Kelly Freeze and 1 Kelly Freeze. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. But I want to show you these 2 things real quick.
And that book's been on my list forever, and it comes up, and it's just the time. It's a timing thing. If you don't have unlimited money, you got to pick your spots. And oh yeah, that's real cool.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite works. So I have that signed, a book with that signed in this collection, and I'm this one here. You've seen it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Both of those signed. And Frank Kelly, he signed a lot of prints, and he was and Arthur C. Clarke has to be brought up into this category. Ray Bradbury. Actually, I found a Ray Bradbury signed book as well. Right here. It's kind of cool. Actually, I found an Arthur C. Clarke signed card. And Ray Bradbury, The Haunted Computer and the Android Pope.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff. There's more to this collection than just pulps. There's history. There's a very eclectic man who reminds us of us. Self-diagnosing, very into colors and polka dots, but really cool stuff. But I do have some artwork to look at. So everybody says, "Oh, he did it." I'm like, stop until I get it, till I get there. You know, you have these handlers who manhandle these things, and I'm like, stop throwing them around. So, but I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank you very much for that. Martians Go Home. Oh, I have an original copy of one. Martians Go Home. Absolutely one of the best books.
He did that one too.
Nice.
The planet cover.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I do love some of this, the weird, the Lovecraftian nature of just. But I always, it's funny because I always say Poe led to Lovecraft, Lovecraft led to Bradbury, to Arthur C. Clarke, directly into Wrightson. I mean, not to Wrightson, into the writers that we had, all the way to Stephen King, to where some of the best horror writers today, I'm going to flat out say Alan Moore is probably the modern day Lovecraft. I know people don't think of Alan Moore, but if you read From Hell, the graphic novel, it's very Lovecraftian, very Poean. Actually, Alan Moore says his favorite writer is Lovecraft, or favorite work is Lovecraft. It's what influenced him the most. Even Swamp Thing is pretty much, if you think about it, is a Cthulhu that stands.
Yeah,
it's pretty much the same story. It's just that way. I mean, Alan Moore is just.
I don't know if I've read a full Lovecraft. I think I have at least 1 or 2 short stories, but
Well, that's the best thing. His short stories are really cool too.
His setup is amazing, but then I don't know. I have a hard time following through.
I guess to each his own. It depends on it's like people saying what's the best Hemingway. I say The Sun Also Rises because whenever I'm in dire straits or in my entire life since I've been 12 years old, I've read that book, and I've read it so many times over and over. Actually, during COVID last year, when I was going through my health issues and everything, when I was very early diagnosed and I got very sick, that's the book that I said I have to read it again. And it's not the same. Everybody takes something differently from a book, but is it better than the other Hemingway works? Probably not. I mean, but it's to each his own. But I would recommend for you 3 Lovecraft full stories, or longer stories in there. Number 1, At the Mountains of Madness, is definitely going to be number 1. I'm going to have to say, I was thinking The Shuttered Room, considering that you're in the small area all the time. The Shuttered Room is really good. It's actually weird in a bizarre way. And
Are those shorts?
they're a little longer, but there's, if you buy a book with Lovecraft, you'll see it in there. And I mean, you need a Cthulhu story. You need one. So pick and choose any of the Cthulhu stories. You just need one of them to do that. If you want to go completely batshit, the one that I would recommend is the Tales of Cthulhu Mythos, and it's kind of like 7 or 8 stories in one. One of them's kind of a part 1, part 2, but they kind of connect. It's kind of like the way Lovecraft wrote some of his characters was like a series, like a TV series. So, which hence there is a TV series. I mean, even the TV series, which I'm not a big fan of, but I don't hate. I just can't. I think just my own mind of reading it and then watching it. It's the same thing with comics. Everybody's like, what's your favorite MCU movie? And mine is a movie that really just is different than the comic, but it's the best one in my opinion. It's Winter Soldier. Hands down. It's never been a question. Even as much as I loved Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet, or whatever you want to call it, Infinity War, Iron Man 1 was cool based on the comic. But something that was completely different was a 1970s chase done in a 2015 format with the characters that I loved by Ed Brubaker. So that's why I always say Winter Souls.
That's in my top 3 for sure.
Yeah. A cool way to read Lovecraft's original form without accidentally chipping your pulp. Tons of scanned pulps on the Internet Archive. Matt, thank you very much for that. I was going to mention that. There is plenty out there on the archive. And one of the cool things about there is there are enough omnibuses or anthologies. And some of the great people, like I know Gore brought up before, the Martian Chronicles is a sad book. Very good. And Mike Mignola. Mike Mignola is a huge Lovecraft fan. Absolutely. But if you the short stories, if you ever want to, the letters that when Lovecraft in his own words is a great book, if you can ever find them. They're not cheap. You can usually get them at secondhand bookstores for like $10-15. They're really good if you're into Lovecraft, or the complete works is probably too much to grab at first because like I always say, there's no order to reading any of the best. There's no great order to read Shakespeare. There's no great order to read Lovecraft or Poe. There is no great order. When they start in the end, they start in the end. The only thing about Lovecraft is that there are times when he's off the deep end. And I would recommend, if you really want to get into Lovecraft, read a biography on him by Josie. Like L. Sprague Camp, as a storyteller. He's the most known from the 70s who did a lot of Lovecraft research and did a lot of work on him. Arthur C. Clarke actually worked with him on a lot of items, which is when I talk about 1 and 1A in sci-fi world. If you don't know who Arthur C. Clarke is, he wrote 2001 for Kubrick. Well, Rowe wrote it before Kubrick, but he's written a bunch of other.
Did he have Dune first editions too?
No Dune. I was looking for Dune. Not everybody likes Dune. I mean,
it's an iconic sci-fi.
It's a great book. It's a great book that you can get for a couple of bucks at any shop.
Not a first edition.
Just don't watch the movie. The Dune movie could be, I was thinking of another Lovecraft one, and what was the one I was thinking of? Oh, the Dark Brotherhood. Kind of it's a little longer than the other ones. It's not as long. But I would say At the Mountains of Madness is just, it's Lovecraftian. To me, it's his best, most signature work. So, yeah, sure, yeah, but enjoy which way you want to do it. But this collection, we're probably going to put some up on this channel eventually in a Claim It auction. I'll have some assistance. We're probably going to be in costume because you know how I am. I'm pretty eclectic about shit. And we'll make it Pulp Fiction style. Liz agreed to play the Uma Thurman role, and hopefully not snort any heroin. God damn. But yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed the first of the many. Next week we'll be doing more pulps, and I'm going to bring, and hopefully Rick will join us for a show about his upcoming auction at Heritage. I think that's coming up there. By the way, just to let you guys know, this is actually our second anniversary show.
Oh wow!
Remember, the first one was on my own channel, and then we did 4 shows there, and then we went over to this channel. So it was done March 22nd, 2 years in a row. And so this is our third. Like I said, our anniversary show is going to be a pulp show. I didn't know it was going to be this.
It's a great show, great thing to have on an anniversary.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm so glad it happened to you.
Yeah, and it's Golden Guys, so it's exact. And I want to share it with you guys, especially. And you all, I've reached out to each of you guys, and I said, yeah. And Knights, don't give up. I didn't bring that book for a reason.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yes, make it work for us. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you very much for enjoying it. Have a great week, everybody. I'll see you next week, and let's keep the pulps going. Maybe I'll do a new theme song next week, and we'll have some.
Great intro. That was a great intro.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?